Coping with COVID and In It Together present Wellness Wednesday, brought to you by the Diabetes Advisory Council of South Carolina and DHEC's Division of Diabetes and Heart Disease Management.
Coping with COVID with Tre Tailor.
Fight the spread and take a stand against coronavirus. Wear a mask in public. Stay at least 6 feet apart from others. And get tested. Join us and fight the spread. Visit scdhec.gov/COVID-19.
Coping with COVID and In It Together presents the Wellness Wednesday from the Diabetes Advisory Council. I'm Tre Tailor, and it is Diabetes Awareness Month. And between having the disease, dealing with COVID, and yesterday's election, you're bound to have some level of stress. And today, we'll talk about how to handle that anxiety. Plus, a new collaboration between USC and DHEC has launched, and Darren King will join us to update us about that. Plus, we'll talk to Margaret Peck, Dr. Nicole Edwards, and coming up in just a little bit, we are going to be joined by Dr. Jim Felder. But first, our COVID community updates. I'm Tre Tailor, and Election Day 2020 is a wrap, but the outcomes remain in many races, particularly the presidential race. Now, to help us through that, what did and didn't happen, Dr. Jim Felder joins us from the South Carolina Voter Education Project.
It's good to be with you, Tre.
Thank you so much, Dr. Felder. I appreciate it. So listen, we've got a couple of things that are going on, and I want to talk about some things first. Were you up all night, first of all?
All night. I didn't go to bed at 5 o'clock this morning.
Wow. And when you got up, it was still the same thing as when you went back.
Exactly. I really need some help from Margaret Peck, because I'm stressed out.
Well, don't be. Hang around and let's get you unstressed. Okay. So listen, let's talk first about the Jamie Harrison, Lindsey Graham race. The most money ever spent in a Senate race. Was that just not enough?
Apparently it was not enough. And we're talking about the most money ever spent in a Senate race, national, not just South Carolina.
Right.
Each one spent over $100 million. Like that's $250 million, so to speak. And it still was not enough on Jimmy's behalf. Now, part of the problem was get out the vote. The virus thing certainly helped hurt situation, but we still didn't do enough for Jamie. He needed at least 80% turnout of the African American vote and 20% of the white vote. It didn't happen.
Wow.
So he lost, but he's not a quitter. There'll be another day, there'll be another office, and you'll see more of Jamie Harrison in the very near future, I'm sure.
Yeah, that's so interesting you say that, Mr. Felder, because I totally believe that, particularly when someone runs for the first time, when and if they don't win, it just sets them up because now they know how to run a race. People know more about them. And I think it helps them the next time, which could be sooner than later.
There is no doubt about that. Jim Clyburn ran and lost 3 times before he became the congressman. And he is right. And he is Jamie Harrison's mentor.
Right.
And remember, Jim may be stepping down in a year or two, and I can see Jamie Harrison being his successor. So, Jamie, hang around. Don't give up.
Well, I'll tell you, I talked to Congressman Clyburn a couple of months ago, and we talked about, if he was going to maybe get a position in the White House, if and when Biden wins. He's told me he wasn't going anywhere and that he knows that both his daughter and Bakari are trying to come after his seat. He said, bump them, and I'm not going anywhere. So I don't know if Jamie is the golden child, even over his own daughter.
True. And there are others. There's a long line waiting to take his seat.
Yeah. So listen, let me ask you back to that race. Are South Carolinians that pleased with Lindsey Graham, or did it actually come down to party and race?
It came down to party and race, but really party. So many whites put party over themselves, put party over government, and unfortunately, that seems to be the case in that particular race. Jamie did very well in the white community, I must say. He really did.
Yeah.
But wasn't quite enough there.
Yeah.
But it was party, and I don't like that. We need to get away from that. I now wish for the days of Senator Ernest Hollins, who was above all of that. But those days are gone. We're a divided nation now. Somehow we got to bring it back together, and people are listening to Biden, and I think, as the one who can do that. And as a result of that, They are still counting votes as we speak because it's such a close race. We knew it would be close, but we didn't know it was going to be this close. Yeah.
Right, right, right. So let's go to the Wilson Burroughs race. What do the incumbents have the advantage?
Particularly in that race, Joe has been the congressman for 20 years. Lexington County makes up almost half of that congressional district. And of course, he's embedded in Lexington County. So it was a tough haul for Burroughs to really win it against Joe. Another candidate she might have beaten, but Joe is institutionalized in Lexington County, and therefore he was able to pull it off again. But she did run a good race, no question about that.
She did, and I think again, she now I think is positioned for something else because I think she was a strong opponent, good girl, and I think she definitely gained some traction. Now we had several situations in the school board vote, Richland 1 and Richland 2. Now let's break it down. I want to talk about particularly in Richland 2, Monica Elkins. There was a little controversy, and in Richland 1, Jamie Devine, no disrespect, but there was some controversy surrounding both of those candidates, but still they came out on top.
Incumbency does not hurt. And when you're the incumbent, people know that name. They don't know the other people, and they don't study the ballot close enough to get more information. And therefore, it's always the incumbent who has the edge. And that's what happened in both of those cases.
Wow. And then right here in Richland 1, of course, let's go talk about another Clyburn. Angela Clyburn actually entered the race a little bit later than everyone else, and she pulled it off. Did it hurt that her name is Clyburn?
Name recognition does not hurt at all, and particularly if you are a Clyburn. So they let people say, well, she ran on her father's coattails. Sure, if you want to get elected, you run on whoever coattails you can get elected.
Right. Get it where you fit in, huh?
And that she did, and she did it well. Came in number 1 in that race,
Yeah, and a big lead, against all of the other candidates.
That is correct.
And then another African American female won the number 2 slot. And like we were saying before we came live, that was so interesting because this sister to me came out of nowhere.
I was about to say that. Just boom, she was on the scene and won. Yes. And of course we had a loss for an incumbent there. Jamie Shad lost his re-election bid. So I don't know if he didn't campaign enough or took it for granted, but he's gone.
And Jamie was very strong in that position.
Yes,
I thought he was an excellent choice in that position over in Richland 2. But in Richland 1, I think it's interesting that 2 African-American females won that race.
Exactly.
And that is going to change the structure, the look of that Richland School District 1 school board. How do you think that's going to affect that school board?
Well, you're going to see some fireworks over there, I believe. Of course, the school board number 1 position responsibilities, elect a superintendent and set the policy. But you may have some clashes on policy over there from this point on with those new persons aboard. So it's going to be interesting to watch what happens with School District 1, particularly at the board level.
Yeah, we're talking to Dr. Jim Felder in our community updates section about yesterday's race. And I want to talk a little bit before we get to the big one, Dr. Felder, about African Americans and women. You mentioned in the Harrison race that not enough African Americans voted, but this was a big year for African American and both women voters nationally.
No doubt about that. Women have been the backbone, particularly the Democratic Party, and the backbone of elections once they were given the vote. Now, you got to remember, women didn't get the vote until 1920. Therefore,
and that was white women.
That's correct, and that was white women. Yeah. So, but in recent years, women tend to vote more than men. I'm really upset with the brothers for not getting involved. They find everything else to do. They can tell you every name of every sportsman in NBA, NFL, but they can't tell you the name of their local congressperson or their local council. So we got to do some work with the brothers to get them aboard.
I would love to have you back on, maybe with Antoine and Bakari and some other people, to have that conversation as
Yes,
to what we need to do to invigorate and engage African American males to
yes.
do more than just talk trash at the barbershop and get into the, and go to the polls.
I look forward to it. Let's have that
I
conversation.
want to have that conversation.
Okay.
So the pièce de resistance, as they say, what in the whole wide, when are we going to find out who the president of the United States is?
Or next week or the week after, because
Will we
yes.
know before the inauguration?
Oh, now remember the Florida situation. We didn't have a presidential January before we knew who the real president was going to be.
Wow.
So, particularly with Trump is already saying he's going to demand some recounts in some of these sessions. So put on your hard suit. It's going to be a rough ride for the next several weeks.
So right now, Joe Biden does have the majority of the popular vote, and he's got the majority of
The electoral vote as well.
Yes.
Yes.
What
But they're
needs
still
to
counting.
happen for either one to pull it out?
All right. For Joe to pull it out, he needs Michigan and Wisconsin and Nevada. If he does that, he's in. If he loses any one of those and Trump wins Pennsylvania, Trump will be in. So it hangs on Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Nevada. Now Georgia's in the picture, but either one does not need Georgia if he pulls those others off. Mm-hmm. So, but in all of those states, they're still counting ballots. Pennsylvania didn't start counting ballots till this morning, and they've got like 2 or 3 million absentee ballots to count.
Yeah.
So it'll be next week or the week after before the final
count. Next week or the week after.
Or the week after. Because if Trump demands a recount in any one of those, hey, it's going to draw it out.
Yeah. I want you to come back so we can talk about why folks wait till the last minute to count votes. Well, all of these, because record number of people were voting early. Seemed like somebody would have taken some time to count some votes so we would know what was going on. I don't know nothing about the election process, but I'm just thinking. Listen, I know you got to go and we're trying to wrap up, but a couple of other things to note. The first female sheriff in South Carolina was elected in Charleston, Kristen Graziano. Mm-hmm. That was a big thing.
That was a biggie, yes.
And then Nancy Mace flipped the House seat back to Republicans. She was the first woman to graduate from the Citadel.
That's correct. That is correct. Yeah. So that she had served in the House and she ran once before, but this time she was really able to pull it off. I don't know if Cunningham just didn't take her serious enough or what, but she won it.
Yeah.
So there she is. Yes.
Yeah. All right. Dr. Jim Felder, South Carolina Voter Education Project, a historian, author. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us today and breaking down kind of what's happening and what will happen. I appreciate you so much. Thank you for joining us on Coping with COVID.
My pleasure.
All righty. In it together, the Diabetes Advisory Council present Coping Wellness Wednesday on Coping with COVID. I'm Tre Tailor, and we're going to bring in Darren King. He's with SC Strong. It's a year-long project initiative between USC and DHEC. Hey there, Darren. Thanks for joining us today. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for asking. So tell us, what is SC Strong? What is the study about?
Well, it's not a study, it's a project. And
okay.
So what we're doing, we're going across the state, trying to get an idea of where COVID-19 is affecting communities so we can allocate resources and send to those communities.
Wow. So who is involved in the study?
Right now it's a project. So right now it's South Carolina, DHEC, USC, MUSC, and various medical partners.
Now, how many people were chosen for the project?
Right now, I'm not sure. Mm-hmm. I know randomized. It has been randomized. There has been letters sent out to individuals across the state, asking them to come in and get tested at their local facilities or pop-up DHEC sites.
Right. Now, was it a certain demographic? Were you looking for a certain person, or was it just a kind of a random representation of South Carolinians?
No, the population isn't targeted. It's at random.
Okay. So people will get a letter in the mail. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And then what should they do?
They should go on the website, fill out the survey info using their unique ID number, and then once they completed the survey, there should be something on the website stating where they can go get tested. And if they have any issues, they can call our hotline.
Mm-hmm. And did you happen to know that hotline number, Darren?
I don't know it by
It's
heart.
all right if you don't know it. It's okay, Darren. I just wanted to see you smile. So listen, now how long will the project last?
So the testing has just begun today, and it runs through the 25th. And after that, we'll see when any more waves of testing are going to begin.
All right. So people will get the information, and they need to make sure that they obviously follow the instructions, get the test, and then from that point, you guys will gather the information to kind of figure out where the resources need to be allocated within the state. Is that basically it?
Yes.
Now, what kind of resources are you trying to put in different parts of the states? Is it more testing? Is it what are you looking for? More PPE?
A little bit of everything. More testing, more resources such as clinical workers, just anything that can help out on the front lines.
All right. And if people want more information, your information is up on the screen, or was up on the screen. People can contact you at that information number if they want to. Let me see if we can put Darren's information back up on the screen. Yeah, scstrong.sc.edu if they want more information about it, if they have questions. Is that a good website, email address?
Yes.
All right.
It's a great
Anything
website.
else? Great. Thank you so much, Darren King. We appreciate you so much. And this sounds like such an interesting year-long project, because we definitely need whatever we can do to help fight the spread of COVID in our state. Thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome.
All right. That's Darren King with SC Strong. Don't forget to reach out to him and check your mailbox for, I think it's a blue envelope. And when you get it, don't throw it away. It's not junk mail. It's a really important project that the USC and DHEC is working on, so we can help curb and stop the spread of COVID in our state. In it together, the Diabetes Advisory Council present Wellness Wednesday on Coping with COVID. I'm Tre Tailor. Coming up, we're going to talk with Margaret Peck and Dr. Nicole Edwards, and they're going to tell us more about diabetes and stress. That's coming up next on Coping with COVID.
Coping with COVID and In It Together present Wellness Wednesday, brought to you by the Diabetes Advisory Council of South Carolina and DHEC's Division of Diabetes and Heart Disease Management.
Coping with COVID with Tre Tailor.
Palmetto Media Connections wants to connect with you. Find and like us on Facebook and a chance to win dinner for a family of 10 for the Thanksgiving holidays. Provided by licensed caterer Deacon Eddie Green of Catering and Beyond, 201 Columbia Mall Boulevard, 803-567-3986. Connect with us for a chance to win dinner for a family of 10. Sponsored by Palmetto Media Connections, connecting media and communities together.
People will be able to look 100 years from now. They will know how we got over. This makes it even more important that we shine this light.
Part of it also wasn't the fact that we couldn't have the physical graduation, but I also couldn't celebrate with my family out of town.
For me, I feel like this is a new normal. This is not going away anytime soon, I don't think.
Anything that's happened before can happen again. And same thing is at play with this virus.
We are no longer in a building, and we've talked about church being, with us, in us.
Have you traveled abroad late in the past 6 months? We were trying to trace it back as early as November.
In it together and the Diabetes Advisory Council of South Carolina present Wellness Wednesday on coping with COVID. I'm Tre Tailor. And hey, don't forget to check the bottom of the screen throughout the show. We'll have information for you from SCDHEC, who has the most up-to-date listings of times, dates, and locations for COVID and flu testing in and around South Carolina. Also, if you want information on hosting a COVID screening or COVID test in your community, please check the bottom of the screen. Also, if you need some transportation, that DHEC Care Line can help you. Now, if you are unable to, get transportation, and 911, you can call 911 because if you live in Richland or Clarendon counties, paramedics will actually come into your home and give you a COVID test. Plus, check the bottom of the screen throughout the show. We've got information there from our SC Legal Services and the South Carolina Bar Association. They'll give you information about mortgage and rental help. Plus, the City of Columbia is helping you with your water bill. They also have payment assistance up to 75%. Job opportunities are available at both Amazon and CarMax. We've got a graphic to show you if you need more information. If you are looking for a job, check the screen for more information. And then finally, Rashonda Pratt has dedicated an entire YouTube channel for helping you with your virtual learners and virtual work. Check out her YouTube channel if you need more information. I'm Tre Tailor, and you're watching Coping with COVID, updates on the pandemic and information to help you thrive and survive COVID-19. We partner with In It Together and the Diabetes Advisory Council to bring Wellness Wednesday to you. We are streaming live on the In It Together Facebook page. We had it up there just a few minutes ago. Please go over there and like and share. Not only you can watch Coping with COVID on Wednesday, you can check out Wellness Wednesday. We're also streaming live on the Tailor Made production page. Would you please go over there and like and share? We're on the air Monday through Saturday at 2 p.m. You can check us out along with all of your COVID-related updates. Also, we're streaming live on YouTube. I want to say hello to everyone who's joining us on YouTube. And please feel free to go over and like our Instagram page too. I'm Tre Tailor, and Margaret Peck joins us now. She's with the Healthy Plate and Cooking. It's a partnership with a diabetes prevention program with SCDHEC. Ms. Peck, thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate you.
Thank you, Tre. Nice to be here.
Absolutely. So listen, between having diabetes and, as I said, COVID, the election, it's a lot to be stressed about.
It is a lot to be stressed about. You know, the American Psychological Association is telling us that across the country, so many of us are experiencing elevated stress levels. And I'm here to talk about how that link between the stress and type 2 diabetes.
Well, let's talk first about symptoms. How do you know if you're stressed out? I mean, I think it can come up in so many different ways, and we may not even recognize that we're stressing.
Exactly. Good point. Many of us are experiencing stressors from many different directions. And so we may experience headaches, muscle pain, muscle tension. We may lose sleep. We may feel fatigued. General feelings of illness. You may also start to feel frustration, anger, things like unmotivated, right? Restless, depressed, some anxiety, things like that start to pop up. And then it's time to look at maybe some of the stressors in your life.
Yeah, we're going to, talk to Dr. Nicole Edwards a little bit later on in the segment, but I want to ask you, when we have these symptoms, should we immediately think, I'm stressed out?
Yeah, well, there are some things that we need to take into account. All of us get stressed from many different directions. And so it's just good practice for us all to slow down and take care of our body and our mind, because it does pop up in both physical and psychological methods. The American Diabetes Association particularly tells us the link between stress and type 2 diabetes is twofold. There's a biological effect, meaning that over time, our stress hormones can then raise our blood sugar levels, right? And then can lead us to higher risk of type 2 diabetes. Also, there can be psychological effects where we start to participate in behaviors such as eating too much or drinking alcohol to excess, maybe skipping our physical activity, using drugs, other things that may pop up that we're not used to doing. So we know that 1 in every 3 people in this country already have prediabetes, which comes before diabetes, meaning your blood sugar is higher than normal, but you're not yet high enough to be diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. We are very lucky in South Carolina that we have a program that is proven to help reduce or prevent or significantly postpone the onset of diabetes. It's called the National Diabetes Prevention Program.
Yeah.
And I'm a lifestyle coach for that program. So I think that's why you invited me here. And we practice strategies that are proven to reduce our risk for type 2 diabetes. One of those is stress reduction or stress management.
Well, before we go into that, I want to ask you, because you said something that I wanted to mention. So stress has a particular, consequence for folks who have diabetes, because as you say, if you're stressed and you've got diabetes or pre-diabetes, it could elevate your blood sugar level. So that's even more reason why folks with diabetes or pre-diabetes need to try to manage their stress. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yeah, that is correct. Yeah. So there is a biological effect and then also the psychological effect.
Right. And I was going to ask, so other than elevating your blood sugar, are there other concerns or other effects, biological effects for those folks who have diabetes or pre-diabetes that stress brings on?
There are, and different people react in different ways. So just like some of those symptoms that I talked to you about, some of those emotional symptoms, emotions we're seeing, but at the same time, it can raise our blood pressure, speed up our heart rate, all those things that are connected with that fight or flight response, that we automatically is built into us to respond to fright, but sometimes it comes from symptoms, these sources of stress that are very common, that may not be a car coming at you or an animal rushing at you. It may be something more like interpersonal conflict or work stress. It could be worry about other people. It could be physical stressors if you are living in pain or with disease. And then we can't forget about the minorities. Certain races and ethnic groups are living with chronic stress of racism and discrimination. And so that's something that we live with all the time. So in the diabetes prevention program, we work together as a team. We meet together as a group or a team, and we problem solve with each other and try to find ways that we all know that we can practice to bring our stress level down.
Well, let's talk about some of those. I know you've got some strategies behind you. Can you share those with us?
I do.
Can you give us the secrets to the castle?
I do. And as I said, when we work together as a group, we share things that work for us or things that we know that may work. And this is something we call a brainstorm. So we all just put ideas out there to share with the group. And hopefully you will take them to heart, try one, maybe try it for a week or two, see how it works for you. And if it helps you to manage your stress, well, it may then well become a habit and something you can incorporate into your lifestyle. So I'll just show you a few.
Okay.
They're both some physical ones. These are definitely from my last group, my diabetes prevention group, who put these up. So some physical ones that they mentioned are taking a warm bath or massage, getting out, doing some physical activity, cutting back on caffeine. Making some good balanced food choices, playing a game, taking a walk, or just slowing down your movements. And then there's also some mental ones that they suggested, some deep breathing or meditation, prayer, reading, closing your eyes and just imagining you're in a beautiful place. So these are all things that we can just take a pause, clear our mind, right? And get things quiet in our mind and let us get a hold of that. A few others that they popped up here at the end were ask for some help. You know, get support from family, friends, or maybe if you need it, a doctor. Laughter and humor and having some fun. These are all really important to incorporate in your life. We spend a lot of time in this class laughing, having fun. Here's a good one, spending some time outdoors or in nature. And today is a beautiful day for that, just to take some time. And then adopting a hobby or activity that you enjoy, you know, playing a musical instrument, craft. So these are not all going to work for everyone. There is no surefire way to manage your stress, but the idea is that you try a few of these, and I'll leave the sign here if anybody's interested. But if you want to try a few, practice for a while and see if it works for you, and if it's something you could adopt on a regular basis to keep your stress managed.
Yeah, I love some of those. And Marvell Williams Mendenhall says those are good techniques. Thank you, Marvell, for joining us. I want to thank everyone for joining us today on Coping with COVID. Please continue to post and share this information out so we can get this to the masses, because I think even though we're talking about obviously diabetes and pre-diabetes, these are good practices for anyone to utilize if you are dealing with stress, particularly today, you know.
Yeah, most definitely. There is no avoiding it. We're all under stress right now, whether it's the COVID or it's the political area we find ourselves. Yeah, or it could even be some civil unrest going on. There's a lot of things besides the natural stressors that just life stressors that come across naturally for all of us. So I think it's good practice for all us to find what works for us and then practice them, adopt them, and use them on a regular basis. It does help with diabetes prevention and blood sugar control, but at the same time, you're so right. It is good for all of us.
Yeah. Well, Ms. Peck, you mentioned something about caffeine. So why eliminate caffeine? What does caffeine do to your body that intensifies your stress level?
And caffeine really has been proven to be a good thing. But again, it's moderation. It's foods in moderation. So we're saying if you're taking a lot of caffeine, have we all had that response where we're jittery?
Yeah.
And we're nervous, and that kind of response, it's just our nervous system responding to too much. So maybe it's time to take a look at that and just see exactly how much you're intaking during the day and get to your level where you don't have those responses. So it's not caffeine that we all have to eliminate it. It's we just need to do what's right for us and what makes us feel comfortable.
Right. Yeah. Michelle Harris says, thank you for managing chronic stress. She says, sometimes people forget that some stress, like racial tensions or financial stresses, can be with us every single day. Absolutely. And that's why that's why I was saying, you know, these sound like great practices for anyone to utilize.
So I'm a lifestyle coach, and as a coach, I'll throw out that little challenge to everybody watching to maybe take a couple of these and give them a try this week. And if it's not for you, try something different, but give it a try and see what happens and see if you're able to reduce that stress a little bit.
Right. Before I let you go and bring Dr. Nicole in, how long do you do these before you like either abandon it and say, let me go to the next one, Ms. Pat?
We always suggest, all the practices that we work on, all the strategies in the National Diabetes Prevention Program, and they will hear a lot of them over the course of a year. I say, come in with an open mind to try something new and give it a try for a week. And then if it's kind of working for you, see if you can make that last for 2 weeks. And if it's really working for you, whether it has to do with better food choices or regular physical activity or stress reduction, that's the 3 prongs to the program. If it's working for you, then let's see if we can just make that a habit. The whole idea is these are lifestyle changes. things that we can adopt that we're going to use for the rest of our life. So, so I guess you'll know pretty quickly if it doesn't work for you.
Right. That's
Yeah.
Margaret Peck. She's with Healthy Plate Cooking. She's with the Diabetes Prevention Program with the Diabetes Advisory Council and DHEC. Ms. Peck, thank you so much for joining us today. These are some such great information. And again, like I said, I would love for people not only with pre-diabetes and diabetes to utilize these practices, but this is some great stuff for anyone.
Great, thank you.
If people want more information, Margaret Peck's contact information is on the screen. They could contact you because you are a lifestyle coach, right? So do you coach folks that do or do not have diabetes?
The National Diabetes Prevention Program is for people who are pre-diabetic, meaning they're not yet diagnosed with type 2 diabetes.
Right.
But I work with a lot of people across. That's what I've done my whole life, is to help people to reach their health and fitness goals. And so it's just part of what I do. But yeah, so they can reach out to me if they want more information.
All right. Info at healthyplatecooking.com at 843-343-7556. Margaret Peck with a Healthy Plate Cooking as part of the National Diabetes Prevention Program. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Absolutely. I'm Tre Tailor, and you are watching Coping with COVID, updates on the pandemic and information to help you thrive and survive COVID-19. In it together, in the Diabetes Advisory Council present Wellness Wednesday, and we're talking about diabetes and stress. And Dr. Nicole Edwards joins us now. And so Dr. Nicole, listen, she, of course, is a friend to the show. She's been with us so many times and to share her expertise. She has a specialty in veteran services and has worked in counseling and caring for domestic violence survivors. And as we were saying with Ms. Peck, COVID, the election, life,
homeschooling.
Well, and you know what, Dr. Nicole, that's under COVID. Under COVID is homeschooling, working from home, not having a job, fear that you're going to get COVID, don't know who else has COVID. You've lost people in your life. You know,
you don't go out anymore. You don't see your
Right.
family anymore. You got cabin fever. Let's just add all of that on there.
It's all of that. It's all of that. And then you got diabetes too.
Yes. And with diabetes, we often see other things go along with it. The high blood pressure, the high cholesterol, it's all of that. Yeah. And then what I was thinking about when you were talking with Ms. Peck was there, we didn't even think about the positive things that cause stress as well. So,
Wow.
you know, if you're getting married, that is a positive thing, but that is still a stressor.
Wow,
and
yeah,
it still
that's
it causes your body to still release those stress hormones. And so a lot of times we don't think about the positive things in our life that can still cause stress.
Yeah, that's so interesting. That is such an interesting. I mean, like I have these two beautiful babies. It's positive, girl. It's stressful.
Yes.
You know, and you got two. Yeah.
Yes,
So
yeah.
So yeah, that's so interesting. So let me go back to what Ms. Peck said about how do we recognize that it is stress? I
Right.
mean, I think the natural things, if we're a little edgy or snapping, but what else?
Well, here's the thing. It looks different for every single person.
Right.
So whereas somebody might, you know, be snappy or be irritable or be a little rough, you know, but some people might just kind of be actually giddy or laughing a lot.
Oh, wow.
Or, you know, almost like an uncontrollable or an inappropriate laughter. I've seen people who, when they get anxious, they laugh, right?
Right.
And so it might be something like they just found out that someone died and they start laughing. It's not because they're being mean or being rude. That's just the way that their body is processing that. Some people just want to sleep all day. So it can look
Right.
like depression. It can look like anxiety. It can look like
Yeah.
anger. It can look like almost what we call mania, which is where I'm just going to tell on myself. I don't know if anybody's been on that Amazon, just been clicking, impulse buying. I promise you there's an Amazon van at my house almost every day, seems like, because we're doing more impulse buying. Back in the day, we would have called that like almost a mania, where you're just spending a lot of money.
You're a shopaholic.
Yes. And so all of these are different ways that we all deal with or cope with stress, but you have to just recognize when it's becoming too much.
Mm-hmm. And again, I go back to what Ms. Peck said. when do you know? Look, when do you know when to hold and when to fold, girl? You know, when do you know when it is and when it ain't?
Well, sometimes you don't know. So sometimes you've got to get the clues from other people. Sometimes it's your your kids who are walking around on eggshells around you because they don't want to set mommy off, or they don't want to make somebody mad, or it's your spouse who's telling you, I don't want to be around you anymore. I don't like you. Sometimes it's yourself. Like you're just like, something's just not quite right, or something's gotta give, right?
Yeah.
You just feel that weight on you almost all the time. It can look like I said, like depression, like that's almost, we know that one's out, the crying spells and the not wanting to get out of bed. It can be, some people deal with stress by eating too much, and so they're putting weight on. Some people deal with stress by not eating at all, and so they're losing weight. And so again, you have to know, first of all, you have to know yourself and know what's normal for you. And then you have to be able to recognize, okay, something is not the same, something is different. And then you have to be able to say, okay, is this to a point where I need to get some help?
Yeah. Dr. Nicole Edwards joins us. She's a board certified general practitioner in Columbia, South Carolina. We've been talking about diabetes and stress. It is Diabetes Prevention Awareness Month, and in it together in the Diabetes Advisory Council sponsor Wellness Wednesday every Wednesday here on Coping with COVID. Nicole, Michelle Harris says, would you talk about counseling and the stigma that surrounds counseling, because that's another way that we can release stress. We need to get on somebody's couch and talk to someone.
Right.
And I'm a big proponent of counseling.
Absolutely. And guess what? Now we don't even have to get on the couch. Now you could just get on a Zoom call, and now you can get on, get on your own couch. Just log on. There are so many therapy and counseling places now that are offering telehealth or teleconferences where it's almost like, like Zoom or like FaceTime. Where you can do that. But the stigma around it, because people have almost for a long time looked at mental health or mental illness as a weakness, unfortunately. Right. And so a lot of times what ends up happening is, if we are feeling like we need to reach out, then we're saying, okay, well, what's quote unquote wrong with me? Right. But since we're talking about diabetes, do we say to someone, what's wrong with you when you've got elevated blood sugar? No, we don't. We say, okay, now we know we need to go to the doctor and get on some medication to change our diet. Same thing when it comes to stress and anxiety and depression and mental illness. A lot of times that has to do with, yes, it's external and what's coming in from us outside, but it also has to do with our stress levels in our body and our hormone levels in our body. So hormones and our brain levels, things like dopamine and serotonin and epinephrine, norepinephrine, if these levels are off or they're not balanced in our bodies, then that can make us more prone to having problems with sleeping, or problems with our feeling depressed or feeling more anxious, feeling like we're always on the go and feeling like we need to go. And so we have to change that idea of mental illness and mental conditions being a weakness or something wrong. This is a medical condition. Okay. Yes. I always say we are one being, but we're made of three parts: mental, spiritual, and physical. And so we have to look at these mental, I don't even like to say mental illness, but mental conditions as just that. It's something, it's a hormone change in the body, and we just need to address it as we would any other medical condition.
Right. And then the other thing is, Nicole, it's not that, again, like you said, something's wrong with you. You may just be dealing with something right now. That you need to get some help for right now. And maybe just some tips and strategies to get you through the hump, to get you through this bad time, so that you can not have to go to the counselor anymore, or let's not even talk about, and we need to do a show about this, not talk about maybe some stuff that happened from your past that you're still,
holding on
that you have not resolved. Yeah,
exactly. And the thing is, how we address these issues, I think a lot of times we look at therapy or mental illness as a quote unquote death sentence, like this is going to be forever. But adjustment disorder, the actual definition of it is to deal with something for up to 6 months. So it's not going to be forever. I won't have to see this therapist per se forever. Although I say everybody needs to.
I see mine once a month.
Listen. A lot of times it's a sounding board, and so it helps to be able to bounce ideas off of someone else and to sometimes when we hear it back ourselves, I know that I've been in some therapy sessions where it's almost like the other person's not doing anything because I'm talking and then having my own aha moments. And I'm like,
Yes.
why didn't I even figure this out? And I'm like, why am I paying you?
Because you were talking to somebody else, and this will help you not be stressed out.
Exactly.
Because you're releasing the steam.
Exactly.
You're getting it out, just like
Exactly.
you would if you're walking or exercising or whatever.
Exactly. And like Ms. Peck was talking about, the ways that stress impacts our body are it's so heavy right now. Like I said, it can spill over to physical. Okay, so stress hormone is cortisol, and cortisol technically it increases belly fat. So you also often see people with increased cortisol levels with the beer belly. You know, with the big tire around their belly.
Some people have a big belly because they're stressed out.
Absolutely, because you have more cortisol, and if your cortisol is not balanced, and if you're producing more cortisol, then that actually increases your belly fat. That's also a lot of times she didn't talk about this particularly, why we see increased stress levels in people with diabetes, because increased stress levels add on to that belly fat, and that belly fat actually adds on to our sugars, and it makes our blood sugars go up higher. So by managing and dealing with our stress and keeping our stress down a bit, it can actually help with belly fat, so we can lose some weight, we can lose that tire around our belly, and we can better manage our blood sugars. It also increases your blood pressure, it increases your heart rate, and so you can get more things like heart disease and high blood pressure if you have more stress. Now, we can't stop the stress from happening to us, but we can deal with how we manage that
we manage it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's just like life. And I say that all the time. We cannot control what people say or what they do, but we can control how we react.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that is where getting some help, now, whether that is through a therapist, through your spouse, through your friends, through your doctor, through your pastor, but someplace at some point in time, you need to be able to reach out. And even sometimes if it's just to do a wellness check, okay, just to say, hey, how am I doing? Right. And so it might not mean something is wrong, but you just need to do a check just to make sure that everything is going, that you're handling everything okay.
Yeah. So that is definitely a great way to manage your stress, or even, as you said, to prevent it, to be looking at it, I know something's coming up, or I don't want to have to deal with this, so let me go ahead and do what I need to do. Let's talk. Lauren wants to know, and thank you, Lauren, what causes your sugar to increase overnight?
Oh boy, we can get into all of the science of that. It's your body and the way that the hormones react. It happens overnight. There's a big name for it and everything, but it'd be a lot to get into the science behind it, but it does. Okay. And we know that.
So what can you do? Can you do something during the day to, stop your sugar from going up overnight?
Well, you can't stop it from going up. However, you can manage what you're eating and manage what your diet better during the day. And then you also want to watch and see what you're eating around that nighttime meal. Now, of course, that changes for everyone, because people who work at night, their nighttime is different. But we're going to talk about people who are, during the day is when they're up, right? And at night when they sleep. So you want to make sure that your largest meal is actually earlier in the day, and so that your late time meal is actually smaller. That helps with your blood sugars to be better controlled in the evening times, as you're going to get that spike, and then you're going to drop down first thing in the morning. All right. It's called this emoji effect, but again, by eating a smaller meal at dinner time, right? And then making sure that we're not doing too much sweets. And then we also have to watch what we call those comfort foods, right? The comfort food stuff that makes you feel good. So your potatoes and your pastas and your rice.
Macaroni and cheese.
Your macaroni and cheese and the bread and all the yummy, yummy, yummy stuff. But that's also the stuff that's also going to increase our blood sugars, okay? So there's a reason why when we are going through a time of stress, or we're going through a time of depression, why we want to reach for those comfort foods is because they do make you feel good, but your body's going to react more to those. So you want to, for your evening meals, because we do know that your blood sugars are going to go up at night, you want to be sticking to more lean lean meats and green vegetables, all right? And kind of limit the carbs and limit the starches, and of course, limit the sugars in the evenings. Yes, Miss Nancy, all things we eat at dinner, all the good stuff that we eat at dinner, right?
Yeah.
But
yeah.
and here's the thing, and this is the trick that I always tell, right?
Yeah.
This is the trick I tell my patients, divide your plate. So half of your plate should be green, all right? Something green and leafy if you can. And then a quarter of your plate can be your lean meat, and then the other quarter can be that starch. And then try to just limit it to one serving, and then try not to get seconds. So we're not saying don't do it at all. No one should absolutely limit all those good foods, right? We just want to limit how much of it we take in. And then if you can do some substitutions, you want to do that as well. That'll help.
Right. So basically, if the answer to Lauren's question is don't watch what you eat later. Watch what your last meal is of the day.
Right. Exactly.
Right.
And then also take your medications. Now, if your doctor has told you need to take your medications twice a day, I know a lot of times people will take their medicines how they want to take them, or how their cousin Nook told them to take how they take theirs. No, you need to discuss this with your doctor and actually set up a plan with your doctor so that you are taking the medications in a way that's best for you.
Right. Dr. Nicole Edwards joins us. We're talking about stress and diabetes in it together. And the Diabetes Advisory Council presents Wellness Wednesday on coping with COVID. Michelle has one last question before we close it out. Nicole, do you recommend some people seek diagnostic counseling when they're told that they have a chronic condition?
Absolutely. Because again, we are one being made of mind, body, and spirit.
Right,
so we need to, a lot of times there is a mental health component that comes along with a chronic disease. I have yet to treat anyone that has cancer or diabetes or a heart disease problem or lupus or fibromyalgia or MS, you name it, that doesn't at some point affect you mentally, right? Because dealing with all of these chronic medical conditions, eventually it can lead to where you can't do like you used to do for yourself, okay? Or you're not able to do all the stuff that you used to do, and that can take a toll on you mentally, right? Now, when I was a therapist before I was a doctor. I know I look young, but I'm actually older than I look. But when I said I was going to medical school, everybody said, "Oh, are you going to be a psychiatrist?" And I was like, "No, I'm actually going to be a family doctor, because I actually probably could do more therapy as a family doctor than I can as a psychiatrist."
Right.
And with that is because when I see my patients, and that's one of the reasons why I got into the type of practice that I have, so that I can take 30 minutes or an hour with my patients, because when I give you a diagnosis, or see that you're having a problem, we can talk about how is this going to affect you in all the ways, including mentally. I think Trey got kicked off, so let's just keep talking about
I'm
that.
Here.
Oh, you're still there. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, we need to talk about how is this going to affect you mentally. And then sometimes that's something that you need to follow up with your doctor for. And of course, if they can't get it all in their normal doctor's offices, you get 15-minute appointment, sometimes a 12-minute appointment.
Yeah.
Then that's when you can say, well, doc, I need to be referred to. Or, I see a lot of doctors that do refer people to counselors or to therapists.
Right. Nancy Richburg said therapists are personal trainers for your mind and your spirit, Yeah. So thank
absolutely.
You, Nancy, and thank you, Michelle, for the question, because I think that's interesting, because once you get a diagnosis, especially as Michelle said, a chronic condition diagnosis, I do agree. Immediately, you should see someone to help you deal with the diagnosis, and then to deal with everything else following it. Yeah.
A lot of especially specialists will have what they call a multidisciplinary team, and a multidisciplinary team has people from all walks of life. So you've got someone, a mental health counselor, therapist, or social worker. You've got sometimes a chaplain on that team. You've got the person who's going to deal with the nutrition or the diet. You've got the doctor who's going to be, giving the medications. You've got the nurses who are going to be helping you kind of deal with but in a multidisciplinary team, there's always someone to deal with the mental health diagnosis. I can remember when I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, that hit me like a ton of bricks.
Yeah.
And I had to figure out, okay, so how is my life going to change?
That's right. Right. Yeah.
What? And so I remember, okay, I got to go get some therapy, right? And so that's something where hopefully you've got a doctor where you can talk to, and where you can kind of reach out if something is not right, and your doctor can kind of be in tune with you and can know and have the time to say, let's make sure that you're being whole person healthy, not just take this pill.
Yeah. Dr. Nicole Edwards joins us. We're talking about stress and diabetes. It's Diabetes Awareness Month, and it's together in the Diabetes Advisory Council. Present Wellness Wednesday every Wednesday here in Coping with COVID. Before we leave, Nicole, I want to talk a little bit about what we can do as far as oils, aromatherapy, and sleep. Are all of those also things we can do to help reduce stress?
Absolutely, absolutely. So, before the big, as they call big pharma, came into play, that people were treating things naturally. So, using things like lavender and using things like chamomile and using things like essential oils to help with decreasing the stress levels. And so, relaxing, absolutely relaxing. So, something about some eucalyptus and some spearmint and some lemongrass,
lavender, frankincense.
Lavender, absolutely, absolutely. And all of these things can help to lower, especially when you talked about sleep. So lavender, we know, helps. There's like lavender sprays you can get to spray like your sheets. Now you need to talk with your doctor about any supplements or any essential oils or things you're going to be doing, because there are certain conditions that you don't like. Lavender can cause some increase with some breast cancer and things, so you want to be careful with that.
Even if you're just having it in your
this is more for ingesting it. But if you're in your mister, no, that's a good thing to just mister. But you do want to make sure that you're talking with your doctor about any supplements or any oils or things that you're going to be using, especially if I know people who ingest their essential oils. So, but absolutely, there are. They do, or they rub them onto points where they
rub
can
them on. Yeah,
rub them on. But there are people who ingest them too. They'll put a little bit underneath their tongue to ingest. Yeah, so you need to be real careful with anything that you're ingesting. All that to say, there are certain oils, like I said, your mints and your eucalyptus and your lemons, your lavenders, your chamomile. Chamomile is great if you need some help going to sleep.
Yeah.
So absolutely, those are ways that we can help to manage our stress in not a pill, not something that's going to have possible side effects, but it's ways that we can help to manage our stress.
Yeah. Dr. Nicole Edwards with Abundant Life Concierge Services. You see her information there. You're accepting patients, Nicole?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Great. And you also do in-person and telemedicine, correct?
Yeah, we try to do telemedicine as much as we can, but we do it in person as well. Now, I will say this too: we don't take insurance because we want to. We kill that middleman, but everything is affordable cash pay, and we can give you a super bill that you can give to your insurance company to get reimbursement.
Awesome. Dr. Nicole Edwards with Abundant Life Concierge. Always such a wealth of information. Thank you, Nicole. I appreciate you joining us today on Coping with COVID. See you
Thanks
later.
for having me.
All right. Absolutely. All right. In it together and the Diabetes Advisory Council present Wellness Wednesday every Wednesday here on Coping with COVID with Tre Tailor. I am Tre Tailor. And listen, if you have a story that could help someone cope with COVID, please inbox me at the Tailor Made production page and let's talk about how you could be a guest on Coping with COVID. If you have a product or service that could help someone cope with COVID, we would love to talk to you about being a proud sponsor, just like Palmetto Media Connections, the City of Columbia Office of Business Opportunities, SCDHEC, In It Together, and of course, Agape Counseling and Training Center, who is one of our proud sponsors. Like Nicole said, that is a counseling service that I go to every month. I don't miss a month that I don't go to Agape Counseling and Training Center. Also, coming up next Wednesday on Coping with COVID, it is a Veterans Day, and we are going to devote the show to veterans' health. Dr. Nicole Edwards will actually be back with us with a couple of other guests, so please be sure to join us. Now, tomorrow, it's time. I tell you, just now, I got a call from the healthcare.gov, and it's so interesting because it is time. 'Tis the season to apply for the ACA. So we're going to talk with Joel Laurie about the healthcare enrollment, and the folks with the American Heart Association. They are casting for their Go Red campaign for women who have dealt with heart disease. That's coming up tomorrow on Coping with COVID. As usual, I leave you with a reading from Jesus Calling. Today, Jesus says, walk peacefully with me throughout the day. That's good for today. You are wondering how you'll cope with all of that's expected for you. You must traverse this day just like any other, one step at a time. Instead of mentally rehearsing how you do this or that, keep your mind on my presence and let me take the next step. The more demanding your day, the more help you can expect from me. This is a training opportunity since I designed you for deep dependence on me. Challenging times wake you up and amplify your awareness of needing my help. When you don't know what to do, wait for me to open the way before you and trust that I know what I'm doing, Jesus says, and be ready to follow my lead. I will give you strength and I will bless you with perfect peace. That's your Jesus Calling for today, Wednesday, November 4th. I'm Tre Tailor. Until tomorrow, I wish you peace and abundant blessings, good health, safety, and please don't forget to wear your mask over your nose and under your chin. See you tomorrow.
Coping with COVID and In It Together present Wellness Wednesday, brought to you by the Diabetes Advisory Council of South Carolina and DHEC's Division of Diabetes and Heart Disease Management.
Coping with COVID with Tre Tailor.